we talk life, what makes it rich and worthwhile, the things that matter most, and the challenges we all face. All to answer one question: what makes life worthy? I'm your host, Amaris Gonzalez, and welcome to LifeWorthee the Podcast. Hey LifeWorthee fam, welcome to the podcast. On today's show, we have a special guest, Taneisha Mings. She has been a longtime friend and colleague, and I'm so excited to have her share her story today with us. Taneisha is a first-generation immigrant hailing from Barbados. She obtained her bachelor's degree in communications from Worcester State University and then a master's degree in student personnel administration and higher education from Springfield College. Taneisha has spent many years living in Springfield and Worcester. She has a 10-year career in the health and human services field, advocating for aging adults, people with disabilities, and reproductive rights. Taneisha is currently a next-gen careers counselor for the Massachusetts Rehab Commission, helping young adults with disabilities building internal skills and find career pathways in STEM. Taneisha is a board member of A Queen's Narrative, an empowerment organization geared towards inspiring women and girls to use their narrative power to become the best version of themselves. She also is a new member of the Alumni Association's Advisory Board at Worcester State University. Taneisha is passionate about sharing her experience as a locked natural with her following on social media. She creatively embraces the beauty of her journey and highlights the challenges she faces building community along the way. Please follow Taneisha on her social handles. I have included them here. And of course, I will include them in the show notes. Let's get into it.
I am so excited to be here. And I've been really looking forward to having this conversation with you. So let's get into it and see what we talk about today.
Yeah. So the point of LifeWorthee is really to think about what makes life rich for you as an individual. So within this community, we really just want to explore the different aspects of life that feel fulfilling and that feel true to a person on their own. Mm-hmm. And so I'd love to hear your story about how you've transformed over the years and found your worth, or a life that's worth living for you. So if you wanted to share a bit of your background, then we can talk about it.
Of course. I can start off first professionally. Like, I work as a career counselor, and I support young adults 18 to 30 who have disabilities, and I help them build skills and find jobs that are meaningful to them. So I think even in my professional life, I'm always just searching to really empower other people. Mm-hmm. And when I think about just personally, I also am like a board member and I do a lot of community stuff. But in the midst of all of that, really just trying to be as creative as possible. I really love sharing my life journey on Instagram and on socials, trying to expand that. I love makeup, all those things, and just really like self-expression. So that's kind of how my story, I guess, of like who I am.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I feel like all the things that you mentioned, like empowering others and expressing your creativity, those are some personal things that really can expand your life.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about getting to that point and finding the things that you love? What were some roadblocks or some things that you had to kind of work through to get to this point?
Yeah, it's a lot to think about and to think through. Right now I'm 33, so I really look back at really me graduating high school and kind of starting that journey on my own, going off to college where I met you, and some of the most exploration. I have done so much exploration in that time, and trying to figure out who Taneisha is, what I like, what I want. And I would say the majority of my 20s were just turbulent, to say the least. A lot of great things. I experienced a lot, especially going into college, graduating, having that experience, but really just trying to figure out who I was. And a lot of that, I think I defined through relationships. And I had a really long-term relationship with someone I cared a lot about, but I wasn't getting what I was putting out. It was a relationship that had a lot of just mistrust and a lot of baggage and toxicity, and that really affected me, I think, in my self-esteem, and also, it kind of just chips away at you, and you're you look in the mirror, you're like, why me? Like, or why not me? Or why can't this person show up in the way that I want them to show up, or that I feel like I deserve, right?
Right.
For them to show up. And, you know, then also staying in that situation too, right? Because then there's that accountability piece.
That part.
Okay.
Right?
Like,
you know, like we've all been there.
Exactly. It's just like, okay, but you were not married to this person. You were not like in a knife against your throat, like you had to stay. So it was also one of that, like to look into why I remained in that situation, even though I wasn't happy, right? And, you know, and a lot of that, I always understood me as a person. I think that I always knew I was unique in my own way. But, you know, when you're going through things that are kind of questioning all, you know, all these little aspects of you, like you don't show up and you don't feel confident and you don't go after things because you feel like you can't share your happiness, or, you know, the happiness that you have is short-lived. So those are some of the roadblocks that I had in my 20s, and really trying to like work through that and figure out how can I get outside of this and kind of figure out how can I really empower myself to be the best person I can, and choose that environment for myself so I can flourish, you know.
Absolutely.
So those are some of the things that I really had to just work through.
Yeah. And to some extent, I feel like we're all in that boat, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, would you say that is an age thing, like you've learned over time, or do you think it was a mix of your youth and like taking accountability and making yourself aware of, I guess, your own decisions, right? Is that a part of it? Like if you were younger but had more awareness, would that make a difference?
I think yes, if I had more awareness. And not to say that I didn't. I think it is an age thing, but I also think personally, like I didn't do the self-work yet. I wasn't in a place to do it yet. Yeah. Because I knew what I wanted to try to hold on to, so that's what I was kind of like fixated on. I want this relationship to work because why not? And like, you know, and I was also in a job that I wasn't necessarily happy with. So it was just also me. I sometimes struggle with change, and I struggle with stepping outside of my comfort zone. It's something that I always continue to motivate myself. I share these like, you know, memes and these posts and inspirational posts every day, but as much as I'm sharing them for other people, it's really for myself as a reminder to just continue pushing the dial. So when I look back at that time, yes, we're young, we feel like we can explore it all and do it all, and then you're experiencing all these things in between it. But also I just wasn't in a place where I was like, you have to be done with a certain thing and be ready to kind of step to that next level before you're really able to. And I think when you're not ready to let go, and whether that's a person or a situation or just like your past self, like you can't really fully move on. And maybe that's why sometimes certain things don't align. So I think it was a combination really of all of it for me. But I had to kind of come out of that to say, hey, I've had enough. Like this is years upon years. You know, in regards to the relationship, the job that I was unhappy with, and I was like, something's got to give. My mental health was really suffering, and I was struggling. And then the pandemic came. So honestly, when I look back, I really, you know, the pandemic is an unfortunate thing, but I really changed so much because of it. It kind of, I feel like, forced a lot of us to kind of wake up and say, hey, like the way we've been living has not been it.
Yep, that's 100% it.
And I worked full time during the pandemic, like as an essential worker, going in every day. And by the end of 2020, I just like hit that roadblock where I had a whole full mental breakdown and like a burnout. I was so done, you know. But then I'm like, you know what? This is it. I need to pack up my apartment. I need to go back home to Springfield. Like I need to regroup. And that was kind of like that pivotal point that kind of ended all of it. Because I was like, something has to give. Because I can't go on this way.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that.
Taneisha mentioned that letting go has enriched her life in many ways. And I wanted to share this quote. Letting go gives us freedom. And freedom is the only condition for happiness. If in our heart we still cling to anything, anger, anxiety, or possessions, we cannot be free. What do you think about letting go? Share with us, tag @LifeWorthy on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, and share your thoughts. Thank you for this podcast moment. Back to the show.
So you mentioned in your story, I felt like the word
grounding or grounded came about in my head. And there's something about when you're going through your different phases and challenges in life, like moving on from one chapter to the next, you gain more grounding in who you are and where you want to go. What does that look like or has looked like for you as you're going through your journey?
For me, when I look back, I think, even the relationship, even career-wise, is really that understanding of, what are the things that make you unhappy? What don't you like? Like, and I think we can always assess what we like and what we want, and that's always great, but like identifying those things, what didn't work for you and why didn't it work, and really dissecting that. And then I feel like that adds to the foundation of moving to the next chapter, and you say like really, really explicitly, I do not want a situation like this. I do not want to feel like this. I do not want to, continue thinking this way. So I think a lot of my journey has really been introspective and me really looking through all of these experiences I've been in and just saying, what do I want to create and how does it differ from where I was before? And a lot of it is that, like, I need honesty. I need, to be recognized. I need to feel fulfilled. I need to feel like I'm in an environment where I'm growing and learning. People who, can appreciate what I have to offer, what I bring to the table, whether that's in a relationship or at work, So those are some things I really had to really look deeply into. And also I had a therapist to help me kind of work through some of that, which I think was really monumental in, my whole rediscovery of myself.
Yeah. And you know what? Thank you for sharing that, because I feel like mental health can be a tricky situation, and while that conversation is opening up and people are open to it more often now, like therapy is not a bad thing. And honestly, it's helped me in so many ways discover myself and like figure out just new pathways and how to overcome challenges. So I appreciate your vulnerability.
Thank you.
But also too, it's almost like you were saying, you have to go through things to become who you want to be, and without that, it's almost like unavoidable to kind of go through some challenges.
That's true.
And you can't have that level of reflection without, I guess, dealing with some pain, right? So I guess I was going somewhere with this, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, without dealing, so who do you think you would be if you didn't have those experiences?
Oof.
Yeah.
I mean, who would have been? I don't, it's so hard to even imagine who I would be without the situations, because I feel like the way life is set up, if I didn't go through those things, I would have went through something else. Because if I think about, if I didn't make those decisions, I may have not been in that long-term relationship, or I would have left that job earlier, and I could have been in another job, but I could have met somebody else and still had to kind of go through those learning curves. And also I think a lot of it too, when I think about relationships and my past experiences, it really does start with me. And I think, we just talked about therapy, and I understand how I think how important it is to incorporate that in your life. And but I also know how much barriers are there to people really being able to, access mental health services, and also to just the stigma within like black and brown communities, just in regards to mental health and talking about your problems and talking through them and trying to find solutions. But I had to really look at, where does all of this stem from?
Yeah.
And it's like, just family dynamics, relationships, strained relationships that I have, in my own upbringing. And then why do I now exhibit some of these, these characteristics, or the ways that I interact in relationships, or why am I so giving? Why am I so, caring, and all these things? Not that I'm not a caring person, but it's because I also want that in return, right? So you want to like do as much as you can. You want to, and I show up this way even at work, and then it's like when it's not a nurturing environment where I'm also being fed, like it's not feeding me, like that is so like, it's like so heartbreaking. It's like, why? Like, what is it? Why can't it?
I'm
like,
doing so much.
Why can't my efforts be seen and recognized and compensated and all of these things like that? So I really think like one way or the other, I think we all have to learn go through things, and whether it's this thing or that thing, I think we're all gonna still like go through the learning, because if I didn't experience all those things, how can I be in this place knowing what I want and what I don't want?
Right. Right.
But I'm sure I would have learned that in another way.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it would have saved me a lot of tears and a lot of like stress but it's hard to think it's hard to think about sometimes.
Yeah, because you really don't know that you wouldn't get that experience. Like, if experience like that was meant for you, it's probably coming either way.
Yeah, in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not as identical as that, but it's something,
right.
Okay? I could have met someone else, but if I'm still that same person in the time that I experienced that, like, I would still act the same in
right.
another situation,
Right.
Wow, it seems like the lessons we need to learn in life will occur regardless of the circumstances. Would you call it fate? Do you believe in inevitable experiences? What's your take? Tag us at LifeWorthy and share your thoughts on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. Back to the show.
You have so many accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
You're on a couple of boards. You're working with youth, and you are a content creator, and you are doing an amazing job at all of those things. And we were just moving into this idea of grounding and discovering yourself, and with where you're at now and your mentality and where you were however many years ago, would you be able to accomplish what you've accomplished? Would you have the focus? And does it feel fulfilling for you to be a part of these things that you have pursued so relentlessly?
Yeah, that's a great question. I look back at, I would say really things kind of have come together for me in the past 2 years. And a big part of that, I mentioned this earlier, was just like the need to let go. Like I had to let go and just kind of put my faith in God a little bit and say, listen, I'm going to leave it to you to guide me in this next chapter of my life. And I feel like, at the time I quit my job and I didn't have another job. It was like 2021.
Okay, so that's blind faith right
there. I mean,
Yeah.
I packed up my apartment. I was out February 1st. I moved back to Springfield, back to my parents' house, which I'm not there right now. It's been a year since I've had my own apartment again. I only spent like a year and a half. I was like, enough.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't live there anymore. But at the time, it was just like, my parents were open arms, like, okay, you can come back and, reset. So I had to let go of my job. I had to, leave behind kind of this life I built in Worcester, for a lot of years, and kind of just start from like the ground. Like, we're talking about grounding. And, I applied for, different jobs and things, just trying to get one. But it really, in moving and putting myself just in another environment, I was just able to, be closer to family. So you're getting that like nurturing, like that nourishing experience. I'm really close with my mom. So that really helped me a lot. And then, I just opened up to so many different, like, I started going to other community events in like Springfield and meeting people, and like some of those people are now like good friends of mine that I have now, and just really reaching out and saying, hey, I want to be impactful. I want to have a community of my own. I want to kind of get involved, and kind of just putting myself out there and saying, hey, like, is there a way I can help on this board? And that kind of led me to like join A Queen's Narrative, which is a women's empowerment organization. And I joined the board after attending some events of theirs. And that kind of gave me purpose in like being a part of something larger than myself, and kind of giving back and helping other young girls, especially coming up, and helping them find their voice and their authenticity, and helping them find their narrative power, right? To be able to have these conversations and to talk about their experiences. And, from one opportunity to another, I found a job. I worked at Planned Parenthood for a year, which was really just a reset, I think.
Yeah.
You know, I really needed balance at that point because, you know, coming out of the pandemic and being an essential worker, I was still working with folks with disabilities, but I was overseeing multiple group homes. So that's just a lot of work, overseeing staff. Like, so there was never a time where I was like fully like off, like, you know,
Right.
And that is really what led me to kind of burnout, like, you know, and really saying, hey, I need some kind of like hybrid situation, or I need, you know, the first time in my life I worked from home, and that was nice, and it allowed me to also then apply for the jobs like I really want. And, you know, I have a degree, I have a master's, I want to be paid a certain amount for my expertise. So it kind of all aligned, and 1 year later I started my current job, which is, you know, for the state, and you know, doing the work that I'm doing right now to support young adults with disabilities in my community in the Worcester area. And, you know, it just all aligned.
Yeah.
But those experiences wouldn't have happened if I didn't decide to like leave my job and kind of, you know, just kind of start over, because I didn't I wasn't in that phase where I was ready for those things, because I was still in the old thing, you know, if that makes sense. And, and, you know, I think that that's really what kind of activated all of what has taken me to this point right now. Just letting go and being okay that, you know, like, you've done enough, you've worked hard enough, you've given enough, like enough, you know, like it's time now to kind of pour into yourself.
Right.
And when I think about this relationship-wise, like, also being okay with being alone, because I did have a short-term relationship after that really long one, which kind of came at the right time, too, because it was just like you're not getting a certain thing from one relationship, then you get another thing, and it's like, wow, all the big stuff. Like, you know, it's all great, but then also there's tiny things that are like, oh,
wait a minute,
I don't like these things either, you know? So it's all learning. It's all learning, and then getting to a point where I had to end that to say, okay, Taneisha, you just need to be by yourself. And just like, vibe by yourself, figure it out, and then like you'll be in your receiving season. And I'm feeling like I'm in my receiving season, that what's for me is going to come to me, and when it comes, like, I'm going to be ready to receive it. So I think in this year now, I've been single, and I've started a new job, and I'm really trying to you know, just expand professionally. Like, I'm really just working on myself and trying to get myself in just a healthier place emotionally, mentally, still trying physically to get to the gym every day, and like, you know, that's an ongoing battle. But, you know, I feel like I'm just plugging along just so that when whatever it is, I'm ready to receive it.
Yeah. Wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, it's to be in your receiving season.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. And so, like, I heard a few things, like letting go created access. And there's so many times I can think about in my life where I just was so stubborn and wanted to hold on, but once I let go,
you're so free and you're so light.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, I've been carrying this burden for so long. Yeah.
And it's just like, I can now grow. Like, I was stunting my own growth.
Yeah.
And the things that I was able to accomplish just by doing that. So that's incredible.
Yeah.
And you are so involved in so many important initiatives, Queen's Narrative, when you were at Planned Parenthood. I remember some of the work that you were doing there. And so always in awe at the things that you continue to accomplish.
Thanks.
Tell me more about your content creation journey. I know you mentioned that creativity and a way of expressing yourself was also part of you being you. And so what has that done? Where did you start, and where are you now, and where would you like to go?
Okay, it's amazing every time I think of it, because I really started my content creation and my whole you know, just trying to build a community. I just kind of did it. It happened all by accident. Like, I started my lock journey almost 5 years ago, so I'm at the 4.5 mark right now. And I just started talking about my experience with having locks for the first time, and kind of going through the woes of that and the ups and downs and everything. And just slowly but surely, like, people came and asking questions. And I just remember, like, being 3 months in and somebody's like, oh my God, you inspire me so much. I just started a week ago. And I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, you know, but it's just like my 3-month experience was so monumental to their 1 week of experience, right? So, you know, I just really enjoyed, I guess, building community. I think throughout my life, whether professionally or even personally, like that aspect of building community, because there is so much, you know, joy and support. And I felt like the Lock community kind of just like took me in and
nice
like
big hug,
right? And there's just some people I talk about it all the time, but there's some people who have been with me since like day one, kind of like watching my journey, and they've also been growing and their locks, and we can compare and talk and do all of that. So, you know, right now I think my biggest platform is Instagram. I have the most following there, and I like Instagram. It's fun. I think, you know, I show many different sides of myself on there, and, you know, I really want to just be in a point where I can like kind of monetize that to the point where it could be like a money-making engine in itself. But at the same time, I'm just like, it's so much work.
It's quite the commitment.
It is a commitment.
Yeah.
And it really takes a lot of like life balance, and I really give it up to people who really dedicate their time to doing all of this. And it's like, I want to, and then there's always, I think from past experiences, that kind of fear and self-doubt.
Yeah.
And that's something for me that I battle with every day. Because, you know, you have that little voice in your head that's like, can you really do this? Are you, you know, doing this right? And, you know, I even have a YouTube, and I remember in 2022, last year, kind of like pumping out like a lot of videos, and it was going really good. And then I kind of fell off of that. There was some shifts in my own personal life and with moving and all these different things. And I'm like trying to fight to get back to posting more. But also now I'm a little bit busier than when I was before. So, you know, I essentially want to be able to continue to grow my following, you know, maybe eventually like creating like a hair oil brand, or like, you know, some products in that way, or like doing meet and greets with like my community. Like that's really where I would like to take it. It's just like connecting those dots to continue to like push myself out of my comfort zone and just do the thing, because people are doing it. Like, and it's sometimes not put together as well as you would think yours has to be, but it just goes to show that people are just being themselves and just doing their thing. So, like, why can't you?
Right.
You know?
Like, don't be afraid to be great. Like,
Exactly. And it's like, you're the only one telling yourself that you're not as great. And other people are like, where is this? Where is that? We want this, you know? So it's hard because you just live with these, you know, voices in your head more than anything else. So it's really like still trying to shift that narrative, you know, just within yourself.
And that's so interesting, because it honestly, most of the conversations I'm having are with myself, and that negative self-talk, positive self-talk is sometimes you don't even realize it's happening, right? It's just occurring, and you're like, oh, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Or, oh, I got this, right? And so finding that balance within yourself that's great. Well, I'll be waiting. I can't wait for the YouTube videos, for the hair oil and the meet and greets. I will be there.
I know. You know, it's so interesting. I mean, on Instagram, I'm posting something every day. So I like Instagram because you can kind of control it. I feel like I can control it a little bit better. So I can post something and go. You know, YouTube is a production. And it's a lot of time and energy, but it's like, I have to do it. So I have some plans, at least by the end of the year, to kind of pick it up again and like, you know, just keep going with it. And sometimes I'm like, my life is not that like fun. Why would someone want to watch my video?
Why am I that interesting? I'm not that
interesting. You know, sometimes like, what am I going to talk about? And for me, I think also with, you know, social media, there is that thin line of how much do you want to share? Right? How much of yourself do you want to give? And I think that's where I also struggle with a lot, because I'm like, oh, self-preservation is really important.
It is.
And what I don't want is to feel like now I have to get on this thing and I have to do it because I have a million people asking for this, that, and the third.
Right.
And it's no longer fun or no longer feels authentic, right?
Yeah.
And that's even with brand deals. I've done a little bit of those. And I get a lot in my inbox, but it's like if I don't feel connected to the brand, it doesn't align with my values or what I want to, you know, put out there, it's like I have to say no because it's like it's not my cup of tea, you know? So I think I always revel with that because, you know, once you put yourself out there, it's out there for everyone to kind of dissect. And, you know, I think there's some things I would like to keep, you know, to myself and those who know me and stuff. So it's always that thin line that I'm trying to, like, just walk across.
As we all are figuring out, right? And I think privacy in a lot of ways are what makes like life rich. Like that moment that you had with so-and-so or by yourself and it's for you. Why does it need to be for everyone else? But also too, like you said, building community is so important. And it also adds richness. To our lives.
It does. And I think even with that, you know, I think sometimes even if you are experiencing something that brings you joy and something that makes you happy, you want to share because it's like, I want to share this thing that I love or this thing that I'm doing that I feel so proud about. And I think in my past relationship, in the long-term one, like there was a point where it's like, you know, I was like harassed on social media. I was kind of like stalked and all of these different things. And I felt at the time like I couldn't even post like a video of me or like a story of me smiling or somebody's elbow or somebody's this because then my inbox is blowing up with, you know, a bunch of stuff. So I felt I didn't feel like I could just be myself and I can really, and I think that has, I think, affected me overall because it's like, now I don't want to share this thing because who is watching me? Who's you know, who's going to come like say something to me about something, you know? So it's just kind of getting over that as well too. But it's also something to be mindful of and that I try to pay attention to. But yeah, it makes it sad when you have to navigate like that because you just don't know like who means you well and like all these different things. So yeah, just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and that's what it's about, right? We might not have all the answers, but we're going to figure it out together.
Yeah, for sure.
Taneisha T, thank you so much. I thought this was an incredible conversation. A few highlights I've gotten from you, a few gems, right? That letting go creates access and alignment. And having alone time and a relationship with yourself really kind of builds joy and also brings you towards alignment.
Yes, definitely.
And I so appreciate that. One last question.
Okay.
What makes life worthy?
What makes life worthy? Well, for me, I think authenticity does. In my own experience, I feel like in the times that I've been authentically myself, I've been able to show up and feel confident in the person that I am, you know, my intentions, you know, even my faults and things that I'm, you know, my flaws. I feel like that makes me unique. And then that makes everything that I touch unique and very special in the way that it is me and it's from me. So, you know, I think for me, that self-love and being okay with that really makes my life, you know, what it is. Because when I wake up in the morning, you know, I'm like, yeah, this, you know, this friend is accomplishing this or this friend has this. But then it's like, and it's places of happiness. It's like, I feel so happy. But sometimes you look at yourself and you're like, well, I haven't done that yet or I haven't accomplished this, you know. But then it's like, but what have I done, you know? What makes me unique, right? And maybe some of the things that I'm really good at, others aren't. So it's like really just really feeling good about the genuineness of who I am and, you know, just trying to stay, you know, continue to hold on to that for as long as I can. So as long as I can just continue to show up and be happy and just exude and live life the way that I want to, I think that that's what makes my life worthy. And that's a continuous journey of me like unlearning and learning and, you know, hopefully being the best that I can be.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Please let everyone know where they can find you on socials.
Okay. So you can find me on Instagram, That's T with 4 E's. Or you can find me on TikTok, which is O_that's T. Or YouTube, that's Taneisha. And I'm sure Amaris will write all of these things down so that you know.
You see it on the screen.
But yeah, I know, wherever it is. But yeah, come, chat with me, follow me, anything like that. And, we'll take it from there.
All right. That's a wrap.
All right.
I mean, what a great conversation with Taneisha. It felt authentic, honest, and thoughtful. I loved her thoughts on how letting go has created access and alignment in her life, how her life lessons have shaped her, and her intentional effort to preserve privacy while also building community. She shared that she is a multi-passionate professional and creator, and it was truly amazing to hear how those different parts of her life intersect and provide fulfillment. I'm excited to celebrate her as she continues her journey and support her many accomplishments to come. And of course, follow her on socials for more content focusing on her lock journey. And with that said, I want to say thank you to the LifeWorthy fam for listening, and stay tuned for more from LifeWorthy the Podcast.